The Los Angeles Lakers about to watch their championship window slam shut, not because they lack ambition, but because the rest of the league simply won't play ball. Right now, as we sit here on this cold December night, the Lakers are 19-7, riding high in the Western Conference standings. LeBron James is defying Father Time once again. Anthony Davis is healthy and dominant. And yet, beneath the surface of these impressive wins, there's a gnawing, uncomfortable truth that Lakers Nation doesn't want to confront. This team, as currently constructed, might not have enough defensive firepower to survive a 7-game playoff war against the elite squads of the West. The solution seemed obvious. Trey Murphy III and Herb Jones, two of the most coveted 3 and D wings in the entire NBA, are sitting down in New Orleans on a struggling Pelicans team that's 8-22. Perfect fits for what the Lakers desperately need. Young, athletic, defensively versatile, and capable of knocking down open threes at an elite clip. It's a match made in basketball heaven, right? Wrong. ESPN's Ramona Shelburne just threw a bucket of ice-cold reality on Lakers fans everywhere, essentially declaring that the dream of landing Murphy or Jones is nothing more than fantasy basketball. And to make matters even more complicated, NBA analytics guru Tom Haberstroh is simultaneously arguing that the Lakers should trade Austin Reaves, their beloved homegrown star, to acquire those very same players. So, what's really going on here? Why are the Lakers stuck in this impossible position? And more importantly, what does this mean for their championship aspirations? Buckle up, folks, because we're about to dive deep into one of the most frustrating situations in Lakers history. Let's start with the cold, hard facts that Shelburne laid out on Mason and Ireland. The New Orleans Pelicans are not, I repeat, not actively shopping Trey Murphy III or Herb Jones. And it's not because they're delusional about their current situation. They're 8-22, for crying out loud. They know they're bad. But here's the kicker that changes everything. They owe their 2025 first-round pick to the Atlanta Hawks. Think about what that means for a second. The Pelicans are incentivized to avoid being the absolute worst team in the league because they don't even own their own pick. Every win matters, not for playoff positioning, but for draft positioning that benefits another franchise. It's a nightmare scenario that completely alters their trade deadline calculus. Shelburne made it crystal clear. Unless you blow them away with an offer 2 first-round picks and a good young player, then you're talking. But here's where the Lakers hit their first insurmountable wall. They control their own first-round selections in 2026, 2028, and 2030. That sounds like ammunition, right? But the Pelicans aren't just asking for picks. They want picks and a high-upside young player. Who exactly do the Lakers have that fits that description? Max Christie? He's shown flashes, but isn't the type of prospect that moves the needle in a blockbuster deal. Jalen Hood-Schifino? He's barely played. The harsh reality is that the Lakers' cupboard is bare when it comes to the type of young, controllable talent that New Orleans would demand in exchange for either Murphy or Jones. And let's talk about why the Pelicans value these guys so highly. Murphy, at just 25 years old, is averaging 20.8 points, 6.3 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 1.7 steals per game this season. He's shooting 49.4% from the field and 36.5% from three-point range. Those aren't just good numbers, those are borderline all-star numbers. He's evolved from a promising role player into a legitimate offensive weapon who can create his own shot while also thriving off the ball. He's exactly the type of player you build around in the modern NBA. Then there's Herb Jones, the 27-year-old defensive savant who was named to the All-Defensive First Team and continues to be one of the most disruptive perimeter defenders in basketball. He's averaging 9.8 points, 3.7 rebounds, 2.4 assists, and 1.7 steals per game across 22 appearances. But those numbers don't tell the full story. Jones is the type of defender who can guard positions 1 through 4, switch seamlessly in pick-and-roll coverage, and completely erase opposing teams' best perimeter threats. He's the modern NBA's defensive Swiss Army knife. Clutch points, Brett Siegel confirmed what Shelburne reported. League sources across both conferences are downplaying the likelihood of an actual trade. The Pelicans, under the leadership of basketball operations executive Joe Dumars, have maintained a sky-high asking price and have shown zero inclination to compromise. Murphy and Jones aren't viewed as movable assets. They're viewed as foundational pieces for whatever the Pelicans build next. And here's the most frustrating part for Lakers fans. Despite their 8-22 record, the Pelicans just rattled off a 5-game winning streak. They're showing signs of life. Why would they blow it up now when they're finally building momentum? The answer is simple: they won't. Now, let's shift gears to the other side of this equation, the controversial proposal from Tom Haberstroh that's got Lakers fans up in arms. Haberstroh isn't just some hot-take artist looking for clicks. He's a respected analytics expert who backs up his arguments with data, and his latest Substack feature makes a compelling, if deeply uncomfortable, case for why the Lakers should trade Austin Reaves. His proposed deal is straightforward but seismic. Pelicans receive Austin Reaves, Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, 2031 first-round pick, top 4 protected. Lakers receive Trey Murphy 3, Herbert Jones. Before you start screaming at your screen, hear me out. Haberstroh's argument isn't based on disrespect for Reaves. Quite the opposite. He compared Reaves' situation to James Harden on the 2012 Oklahoma City Thunder, a superstar waiting to break out, who might never reach his full potential if he remains in his current role. It feels similar to James Harden on the Thunder, where there's a superstar waiting to break out. But can he do it on the Lakers? And should he? Haberstroh wrote, "That's not a knock on Reaves. It's an acknowledgement that he might be too good to remain the third or fourth option on a team built around LeBron James and Anthony Davis." But here's where Haberstroh's argument gets really interesting and really uncomfortable for Lakers fans. He dives deep into the defensive metrics and uncovers a troubling pattern. Luka Doncic, Austin Reaves, and LeBron James are 3 of the 10 slowest defensive players in the entire NBA based on how much ground they cover. Think about that for a second. Your 3 primary ball handlers are all defensive liabilities in terms of lateral quickness and recovery speed. In their current forms, Doncic, James, and Reaves represent 3 of the most offensively skewed stars in the league, Haberstroh wrote. You can have 1 or maybe 2 of these all-world defense but please hide me on defense stars and expect to win at the highest levels. But 3? Good luck. The numbers back him up in a devastating way. In 695 minutes with the trio of Doncic, Reaves, and James on the floor together since Doncic arrived in Los Angeles last February, the Lakers have been outscored by 31 points. That's 1,406 possessions worth of data. Their offensive brilliance hasn't been enough to mask the defensive hemorrhaging. Haberstroh argues that having multiple players who need to be hidden defensively spreads a defense dangerously thin. 3 such players? It's untenable in the playoffs, where elite offenses will ruthlessly exploit every weakness. Remember what happened against the Minnesota Timberwolves last postseason? That's the blueprint for how teams will attack this Lakers squad. The solution, according to Haberstroh, is to swap Reaves for Murphy and Jones, 2 players who would instantly transform the Lakers' defensive identity. Murphy at 6'7" and Jones at 6'8" can guard multiple positions and provide the type of switchability that's essential in modern playoff basketball. Murphy's elite three-point shooting, consistently making over 2.5 threes per game at an efficient clip across his last 3 seasons, would also address the Lakers' glaring weakness from beyond the arc, where they rank 24th in three-point percentage, 34.5%, and 25th in three-point makes per game, 11.7. The Pelicans have 2 wing players that would be ideal next to Doncic's Lakers, Haberstroh explained. As we saw in Dallas, the Slovenian is maximized next to long defenders, rangy athletes, and lob threats. Enter Trey Murphy 3 and Herbert Jones. He's not wrong. Murphy is one of the elite dunkers in the league, making him a perfect lob threat for Doncic's playmaking. Jones is willing to do all the dirty work defensively and checks in younger, bigger, and more cost-controlled than Marcus Smart, who the Lakers have also been linked to. So here we are, stuck in this maddening paradox. On one hand, Haberstroh's logic is sound. The Lakers' defensive issues with their current core are real and quantifiable. Trading Reaves for Murphy and Jones would address multiple weaknesses simultaneously: defense, three-point shooting, and positional size. On the other hand, Shelburne's reporting makes it abundantly clear that this trade is a pipe dream. The Pelicans aren't interested. They're not shopping Murphy or Jones. And even if they were, the Lakers don't have the assets to meet New Orleans' asking price without including Reaves, which brings us right back to square one. But let's play devil's advocate for a moment. What if the Lakers actually pulled the trigger on this deal? What if they swallowed the bitter pill of trading their beloved Reaves to acquire Murphy and Jones? Would it be enough? The answer is maybe. Murphy and Jones would undeniably make the Lakers better defensively. They'd provide the wing versatility that's essential in today's NBA. They'd space the floor better than the current roster, but you'd also be losing Reaves' playmaking, his clutch gene, his chemistry with LeBron and AD, and his connection with the fan base. That's not nothing. And here's the kicker. Even if the Lakers wanted to make this trade, the Pelicans have already said no. So we're debating a hypothetical that has zero chance of becoming reality. It's the ultimate exercise in frustration. Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. LeBron James is 40 years old. Anthony Davis, while healthy now, has a history of injuries that makes every season feel like borrowed time. The Lakers' championship window isn't just closing, it's practically slamming shut in slow motion. The front office knows this. Rob Pelinka knows this. That's why they've been so aggressive in pursuing upgrades. But wanting to make a move and actually being able to execute one are two very different things. The Lakers are hamstrung by their lack of tradable assets, their previous trade decisions, and the harsh reality that other teams know they're desperate. The Pelicans can afford to wait. They're building around young talent like Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen. They have time on their side. The Lakers don't. And that power dynamic completely shifts the negotiation leverage. Shelburne's reporting suggests that unless the Lakers are willing to part with multiple future first-round picks and a young player of significant value, the Pelicans will simply hold onto Murphy and Jones. And why shouldn't they? Both players are under team control, both are improving, and both fit the timeline of a rebuild better than whatever package the Lakers could realistically offer. So, where does this leave the Lakers? In the most frustrating position imaginable. They have a legitimate need for defensive wing upgrades. They've identified the perfect targets in Murphy and Jones. They even have a respected analyst making a data-driven case for why trading Reaves would be the smart move. But none of it matters because the other team simply isn't interested in playing ball. This is the harsh reality of being a win-now team without the assets to make a significant upgrade. The Lakers can't outbid other teams for elite talent. They can't dangle young prospects that move the needle. They're stuck hoping that some team gets desperate enough to accept a package centered around role players and distant future picks. And in the meantime, the defensive issues that Haberstro identified aren't going away. The Lakers will continue to give up 130-plus points to lottery-bound teams. They'll continue to rely on their offensive firepower to outscore opponents rather than locking them down defensively. And when the playoffs arrive, those weaknesses will be ruthlessly exposed by the elite teams of the Western Conference. The Lakers are 19-7 right now, and that's genuinely impressive. But anyone who's watched this team closely knows that the record is somewhat deceiving. They've escaped games they probably should have lost. They've been bailed out by LeBron's brilliance and AD's dominance. But can they sustain that for 4 playoff rounds against the best teams in the world? History suggests no. Here's the takeaway that should keep Lakers fans up at night. Sometimes, the best move is the one you can't make. Murphy and Jones would transform this team. Trading Reaves might be the analytically correct decision. But if the other team won't answer the phone, all the logic and data in the world doesn't matter. The Lakers are caught in a trap of their own, making years of aggressive win now. Moves have left them without the flexibility to make another big swing. They're good enough to compete, but not quite good enough to contend. And the gap between those two things might be wider than the distance between Los Angeles and New Orleans. As the trade deadline approaches on February 5th, the Lakers will continue to make calls. They'll continue to explore options. But unless something dramatic changes, unless some team gets desperate or the Pelicans suddenly shift their stance, the Lakers will likely enter the playoffs with essentially the same roster they have now. And that might be the scariest thought of all for a franchise that's running out of time to capitalize on the final chapter of LeBron James' legendary career. If this situation frustrates you as much as it does me, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Are the Lakers making a mistake by not going all in on a Reaves trade? Or is keeping their homegrown star the right move, even if it means accepting their defensive limitations? Let's debate this, because one thing's for certain: the clock is ticking and the Lakers are running out of moves to make.